Okay, we'll move on to Alex Albon. As you've already alluded to, Sam, he had a tough race out there. Did recover to P8 on his two-stop strategy. Went into the pits very early on, the earliest guy to go into the pits. Didn't work out with a second safety car. Stuck on the hard tyres for a bit longer until he went onto the mediums. Had a few fastest laps, made a few overtakes, got up into P8. Harry, what did you make of his race, first of all, and then also the collision with Kevin Magnussen that set it on a downward spiral to begin with?
Yeah, the race was not another great one, was it? Another average weekend for Albon, and yeah, quali was poor, and I don't think you can blame it on traffic this time. The early pit stop, which that then put him on this different two stop strategy. But that I think that was caused by the incident with Magnussen because I think he did have some damage. Um, but yeah, the incident with Magnussen, again, I'm torn. It's the patience thing. I think I would have called it a racing incident. But Magnussen had made the mistake, and Albon is fairly alongside, I would argue. But at the same time, again, patience. We've said it before with the incident with Hamilton in Austria. He could have made that car is quicker than the Haas. He could have waited and made that move at a more reasonable point. Yeah, but at the same time, I think Red Bull again they seem to like that more than they liked Gasly not making that move, like that sort of move. So even though it didn't work out, I mean, he gained the place, he got a 5 second penalty, but part of me thinks they won't actually mind that too much. But again, not a great weekend for Alex. He was the driver I said who needed a good weekend, and he didn't. So not a good one. But he is. I think he's lucky that Red Bull don't really have many other options. Otherwise, I think time would be running out quicker for him.
Quite possibly. Sam, you've already touched on Albon's performance out there. In terms of the incident with Kevin Magnussen, got a 5 second penalty. Would you agree with what the stewards dished out there?
Yeah, 100%. We're going to be consistent. This is the first time they've actually been consistent so far this season. It's exactly the same as what happened with Hamilton and Albon previously. Again, Albon becoming the usual factor here, unfortunately. Two cars were relatively alongside each other, got a little bit close to the edge of the track, makes contact by the tyres, one goes spinning off. Only fortunately for Albon this time, he was one that gained a position and sent another car spinning off. Yeah, Magnussen made a mistake, but that corner is so fast flowing and such a tight angle. It's the same as in turn one. It's very difficult to make a move down the inside of that corner. Every F1 driver should know that. The stewards even recognise that in their feedback on the penalty. It's a slam dunk penalty. He's put another driver out of the race. You've got, at that point, 51 laps to get a move done. Your car is 100% the better car. You have more speed. Your teammate is fighting for podiums and race victories. You're down in what? I think 14th place at the time, 15th place. Whatever it was shocking. He needs to learn to take a deep breath and go, oh, my car isn't a Williams. I don't need to literally attempt to get the move done at any given second. I've got a better car. Let's get the move done. Let's work our way through the field. We've seen it from Hamilton. We've seen it from Bottas. We've seen it from Max. We've seen it from Vettel, Ricciardo, whatever. Cars, when they have a bad time due to penalties or bad qualifying, they take their time, just like Kimi, and they work their way through the grid. Albon can't seem to make an overtake without crashing into someone, and it's not good enough anymore. He's got points on his license for that now as well, because it was reckless. I think it was a really, really poor move to make. I don't think it was a racing incident. I think Albon was silly. He deserves the penalty. The strategy afterwards was then poor. He got lucky maybe with a bit of the punctures again coming through. Maybe should have only had 1 point, if not none. For me, it was an absolutely shocking race from Alexander Albon. And if his pace was simply better in qualifying in the first place, then maybe he wouldn't find himself in this situation. He needs to improve.
Yeah, really difficult one for him. And I think probably in terms of the race, the most difficult part for me was when, after the safety car, he was on the same tyres as everyone else. He had slightly older tyres, but there wasn't really anything in it. And he just couldn't make any moves on guys who weren't even inside the top 10. Guys in 11th and 12th. He couldn't make a move on those guys and make any overtakes until he went into the pits onto the mediums. And I think he did a solid job on those mediums. But at the same time, Verstappen was still going quick enough on old hard tyres that he set a fastest lap late in the Grand Prix when Albon was setting fastest laps as well. Old hard tyres versus relatively fresh medium tyres shouldn't be a match, and it was, which tells you it's driver related in that instance, because Albon at that point in time did have the track to himself. Yeah, in terms of the incident itself, I'm going to go with Harry. I think it was a racing incident based on the fact that Albon got enough of his car alongside Kevin Magnussen, but it does go back to, just because I think it's a racing incident doesn't mean I think Albon should make that move. It goes back to however many he's had in the last 6 races or so. It's situational analysis that isn't good enough in his repertoire at the moment. Kevin Magnussen, his Haas car is at best the 3rd worst on the grid. He had a good start, Kevin Magnussen, and made his way up past a number of guys, so fair play to him, but he's out of position there. And Albon's out of position as well. His car is probably the 2nd best on the grid, so theoretically it shouldn't be in 12th place. He just needs to be patient. There's an opportunity into turn 1. Silverstone is plentiful for overtakes. If this happened at, say, Monaco or somewhere similar to that, and he was given half an opportunity and he went for it and it ended up like this, I would have said, okay, not a great move, but at the same time, if he doesn't make it there, he might be stuck behind him for 40 laps. So understandable. Silverstone, that's not the case. There would have been an opportunity maybe into turn 1, if not turn 1 into Brooklands, if not Brooklands into Copse, if not Copse into Stowe, if not Stowe into Vale. You've got at least half a dozen opportunities around the lap. And at that point in time, you've still got 50 to go. So just take your time, Alex. You don't need to make that move. And it's, again, going on that situational analysis. Kevin Magnussen is renowned for not giving space. He is box office after all. Leaving space is not box office. So, what do you have to do? You have to bide your time. You have to look for your best opportunity. The last corner, and like I say, there's about 6 opportunities to overtake around Silverstone. The last corner isn't one of them. So Kevin Magnussen is probably, even with a mistake, not expecting Albon to go up the inside there. And he's probably expecting him to get in his slipstream and try and get him into turn 1. Albon just sticks his nose in. Yes, I think he got half a car alongside, meaning it wasn't a penalty, and I think a racing incident is fine. But at the same time, I don't think Albon can have many complaints. I think he was lucky to avoid significant damage. He was lucky to continue on. And to a degree, yeah, he was lucky to get back into the points. So there needs to be something else. It seems to be the opposite problem with Gasly, where Gasly wouldn't attempt any move, even when it was safe to do so. And now he's back in the AlphaTauri. He seems to be getting better at it. But with Alex Albon, it's the opposite problem if he's making attempts at the first 10% opportunity he gets, rather than waiting for a 70% likelihood of getting past or a 90% likelihood. It's poor racecraft, I'm afraid to say. And Albon, he needs to turn it around at some point.
The determining factor with Albon, and whether you think the incidents are his fault or not, and Ben, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, since Brazil, which was 6 races ago, so in the last 6 races, Albon has had contact 4 times. There have been 4 major incidents with Albon in the last 6 races. You look at almost any other driver across the Formula 1 grid at the moment, I don't think anyone has that percentage in terms of major contact with another driver anywhere on the grid. At the front, at the back, in the middle, whatever. Wheel-to-wheel fighting is essential when it comes to Formula 1, and Albon just doesn't seem to have it. I don't know what it is. He just can't pull off an overtake cleanly, and he rushes it. The rushing is the main thing that we've said, and for me, it's the same scenario as what happened with him and Hamilton. 2 cars were side by side, and Hamilton got the penalty, and now Albon gets the penalty, and I think that's fair. I think, that's the mistake that's made. Albon needs to work on that racecraft, otherwise I don't think he has a place at the front in Formula 1.